I think really at this point of a tournament of this magnitude that it's really important that our guys maintain the same approach that they've had since, gosh, 20 games ago when they realized where they were. The last thing that you want to see happen is for them to think that we got it all figured out. We don't have anything figured out. We just know that Michigan is a heck of a baseball team. You don't do what they've done if they're not a heck of a baseball team. So we know that we've got to play very well to advance. We know that this is a game in which if we were to lose, we would still be in it. But certainly if we could win it, it would put us in a position that, well, it's been a long time since we've been in that position.
Coach, 2 national seeds are in the losers bracket, and 2 of the last 4 teams to even get in the tournament are in the winners bracket. Just what's that like, and what does that say about the game of baseball?
The only thing that is predictable in the game of baseball is the unpredictability. It's the most incredible game because, well, look at the standings in the major leagues right now. The teams that are near or at the bottom are still winning 30% of their ball games. It's just a game in which you never know. Like the old man says, run the ball out. You never know what might happen.
Looking at Michigan, what stands out about them?
Erik Bakich has done a great job at the University of Michigan. They're a team that's a solid fundamental team. I noticed yesterday in the first inning against Texas Tech, they got a 6 or 7 pitch walk and then a wild pitch. Somebody popped with nobody out. The guy hits the ball to the right side to advance the runner, and you could tell he was doing everything to get out and around the ball to advance that runner. And then the next guy hits a fly ball or a ground ball with the infield back to score that run. That was designed. That didn't just happen.
Coach, do you see a little bit of yourselves in this Michigan team? You know, they weren't expected to go too far in this tournament, now playing here in the College World Series. You see any of yourselves in this team you're facing?
Well, Michigan is a team that has played in some tough weather conditions, and I'm sure that affected some of their record because it's not easy to play in the climate that they play in. But as far as what they've accomplished, I think that's just a credit to their coaching staff in the way they've approached. And I tell you, they've approached it extremely impressive. I still just marvel at the way they went out to L.A. and got it done.
Well, what is your relationship like with Erik? You kind of competed against him at Maryland, and what has made what he's done at Michigan so impressive?
I think the main thing is just getting his point across to his team of the important attributes of being a winning team. And that's evidenced by the example I just gave you. He's a guy that is going to get the most out of his players. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He coached under a very good coach in Jack Leggett and Tim Corbin. He's learned from the best, and it's a credit to him to sift through what he liked and maybe some of the things that he didn't like, and that's the mark of a good coach. You try to pick out things that you like when you're trying to learn the game, but don't try to be like that person. Don't be anybody but yourself. He's done a great job.
Both he and Nick Schnabel wear 23 for Keith LeClair. Just what do you remember about Coach LeClair and what he meant to them and to the game?
He was such a special guy. He came to Tallahassee a few times. You did say Hal Baird, I'm sorry.
Keith LeClair.
Keith LeClair, you didn't mention Hal Baird.
Yeah.
Okay. Keith has been in his mind the entire career because, of course, we lost a wonderful human being when we lost Keith. He passed along knowledge to a lot of coaches. He did things the right way. Erik Bakich does things the right way.
Coach, saw the video of you last night in the hotel, you know, saying thanks to the fans and everything. Just this fan base. I mean, how special have they been this year to you, and just making the trip out here to Omaha? You know, it's not easy. It's not an easy trip.
It's not an easy trip, Allison, but what is so neat is they were there. They were enjoying themselves. It was a fun trip, and I would say that some have come when we lost the first game, but it didn't deter them from coming back to support the young men. That's what is so special about our fans, is they support the players, and the players appreciate it, and they respond to it. There's no question that we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the great fan base and support from our administration.
Well, Evan, how unique is it what JC Flowers is doing to be an everyday center fielder and a closer? And I don't know how many times in your career you've had a situation like last night. With 2 outs, he scores the go-ahead run and then goes on a dead sprint to the bullpen to try to get loose.
He's one of a kind. We've had guys in his situation, but none in which the contribution was so big. I can look back to when Chris Roberts was here. Chris was a great player, but he wasn't exactly the guy that we said, get him ready. Mm-hmm. It was, okay, we got Roberts. If we need him, we'll use him. This young man never shies away from any challenge. When it was mentioned to him, you got to get ready. Like you said, he's gone in a sprint and knows that he's going in to pitch the 9th inning.
Is he kind of like Mike McGee in a sense, also an outfielder that could, and can he warm up in between innings? Like if he knows there's a chance he might be pitching, like as the throwing to the right fielder, getting loose in that way too?
He'll do that occasionally when we're thinking our pitcher may be at 95 going into the 8th, and we know he's not going to finish. We may have him throwing to a right fielder as we begin that 8th inning.
What's made CJ so tough over the last few weeks, and how pleased are you with his development and the way he's come along?
Clyde Keller and of course Mike Martin Jr. calling the game has been very impressive. Clyde worked with him on a couple of things. I think what's really helped him a lot is the changeup. We're developing that as we go along, and him being a sophomore, it's really going to be a big pitch for him as he continues to throw this summer. When you throw 96, 97, and you can come off of that to 80, that's pretty doggone tough to make adjustments to. But don't forget, his best pitch is probably his curveball.
Coach, you know, if Michigan throws a lefty, how will you handle left field? Will it be Tim Becker, or will you go back to Elijah Cabell, or just what's the plan there if they do throw
Probably
lefty?
stay with Becker. I know there's a possibility they may go left-hander, and if they do, we would start with Tim Becker because we know that the next guy out there would be a right-hander.
Coach, just after that performance by Parrish, just how much of a luxury is it to know you've got Van Eyck going in Game 2 tomorrow?
Well, those young men and many others on our staff have pitched extremely well in the last 6 or 7 weeks. We just feel that Drew was the man that we wanted to pitch last night because that's what we've done for the last 8 or 9 weeks. You don't want to send a message to a team at this point, especially by changing the rotation, and there was really never any thought of changing the rotation because, number one, Drew Parrish is a guy that you want out there. C.J. Van Eyck is a guy you want out there, but we can only use one, and we're not going to change off of that. If we get an opportunity to be faced with this again in this tournament, Drew Parrish will be the guy that goes out there, and C.J. if we get to a certain spot, would be the next guy.